crumbling stone archway loomed before Anon, half covered in vines and obscured by shadows. An eerie stillness hung over the ruin, as if time itself had stopped within these ancient walls. His heart raced with each step forward. What secrets lay buried here, waiting to be uncovered after all these years? The voice from his necklace hummed with energy, guiding him onward. He slipped through the archway and paused. A stone floor stretched ahead, covered in a layer of dead leaves. A series of narrow corridors branched left and right into darkness. Which way? He thought. The necklace tugged him to the right. He shuffled forward slowly, wary of traps. His boot nudged against a loose stone tile, and for a moment, he teetered on the edge of a hidden pit before regaining his balance. He breathed a sigh of relief. That had been a close call. The passage opened into a large chamber filled with massive stone columns. He peered around the edge of the doorway and glimpsed a tripwire stretched across the entrance, nearly invisible in the gloom. His heart pounded as he realized this ruin was meant to keep out unwanted visitors. But he had come too far to turn back now. He summoned a burst of mana and propelled himself into the air, sailing over the tripwire to land silently on the other side. The voice purred in approval. He sensed a surge of energy from the necklace, as if it, too, was eager to push deeper into the ruin. Another narrow corridor stretched ahead into darkness. He ignited a ball of light in one hand and raised a shield of mana around himself with the other. Whatever dangers lurked here, he was ready. The secrets of this ruin would be his. He crept down the corridor, wary of traps with every step. The passage opened into a massive chamber filled with a strange azure glow. His breath caught in his throat. The chamber was filled with treasure beyond imagination, piles of gold and jewels, ancient artifacts imbued with mana, and magical items long thought lost to time. But his gaze was drawn to the center of the room, where an enormous pool of liquid mana churned and roiled. Power emanated from it in waves, thrumming through the air and resonating in his bones. He stared at the pool, transfixed by its beauty and immense power. Here was enough mana to propel him far beyond the level of any family leader. Here was an opportunity to grasp power that had only existed in legends. His fingers twitched, longing to reach into that pool and draw the mana into himself. But he stilled the impulse, aware of the danger. This was not a prize to be claimed recklessly. He would prepare meticulously, take every precaution, and ensure he was ready before attempting to absorb a mana pool of this scale. The secrets of this ruin were his, and with them, power beyond imagination, if he was patient. The necklace pulsed in accord with the mana pool, as eager as he was to unlock the potential within this chamber. But he soothed the ancient construct with a thought, projecting his determination to proceed carefully. Power of this magnitude could not be taken lightly. But when the time was right, it would be his. He smiled, gazing at the churning pool. The leaders of Kelm had no idea of the storm that was coming. Anon spent days studying the Supreme Mana Manual and practicing the techniques it described. His mana sensitivity grew acute, allowing him to sense the flows and eddies within the churning pool. he learned to shape mana with precision and wield it with control. When he felt ready at last, he stood before the pool with determination and not a little trepidation. This was a pivotal moment. Success would propel him to heights of power he had only dreamed of, but failure could destroy him. He took a deep breath and reached for the mana. It surged into him, a raging torrent of energy that threatened to overwhelm his control. But he was ready. He channeled the flow, shaping it and binding it to his will. The necklace pulsed in time with his heartbeat, supporting him, guiding him. The mana filled him, pressure building until he thought he might burst. But at the critical moment, everything stabilized. The pressure eased, the flow settling into a steady thrum of power within him. He had done it. He could sense the difference in himself, a vast wellspring of mana at his command and insights into magic that hadn't existed for him before. He was no longer simply talented or promising. He had become a master of magic in truth. The leaders of Kelm would kneel before him, he thought, with grim satisfaction. But first, there were secrets in this ruin left to uncover and dangers to overcome. The necklace pulsed with readiness, as eager as he was to forge forward into the unknown. Anon smiled, magic crackling at his fingertips. The journey ahead would be arduous, but he had been reborn in this place of power. He was ready to face any challenge. This is the end of chapter 9.